Hi guys, this is gsn.com and I'm here with a review of the Samsung Galaxy A72, the 4G edition. We have here quite a good looking phone in the violet hue. They're actually calling it Awesome Violet. This is a mid-range phone which has quite a few extras even when compared to the Galaxy S21 and S21 Plus. Unveiled in March, the phone is priced at around $400 right now and it's quite big at 6.7 inches in diagonal. Aside from that, it has a high refresh rate screen, 90 Hz, it has stereo speakers, it has optical image stabilization and even 3x optical zoom, which is something the Galaxy S21, the basic one, doesn't have. So in some ways it feels like a sort of Galaxy S20 Fan Edition Lite. Aside from this color you see here, Awesome Violet, there's also Awesome Black, Awesome White and Awesome Blue. Now the phone is made of plastic. This is a soft touch plastic which is pretty grippy and doesn't make the fingerprints and grease adhere to it, while the camera module is similar to the Galaxy S21 one, but is not wrapped around the corner but rather moved to the center. The protrusion is, I would say, not too big and not too small. At the front side I would find the bezels to be a bit big, but at least there's symmetry here in the thickness of the bezels around the panel. I'm also digging the fact that the selfie camera doesn't have a huge punch hole. The good piece of news we have here is that the phone is IP67 certified, meaning it's dust and water resilient, up to 1 meter and 30 minutes. Once again, plastic back, plastic frame, which measures, let's see here, 8.4 millimeters in thickness, and the phone weighs a hefty 203 grams. We got Gorilla Glass 3 at the front side for the scratch protection, and I would say this is a rather massive phone, which will definitely not be easy to use with a single hand. Now on the screen front you can already tell it's a quality panel. It's a Super AMOLED 6.7 inch Full HD Plus with a punch hole, with a fingerprint scanner in the screen and with a 90 Hz refresh rate. Now the viewing experience will involve me playing a video for you so you can see for yourself what this panel can do. Okay, so first things first, being an AMOLED, we got obviously very vivid colors, deep blacks and a bright and crisp image. It also has a pretty solid contrast even in the full sunlight and wide viewing angles, as you can already tell. The pixels have the pixels have a pentile matrix arrangement, and I find it odd we didn't get HDR support here. Now, when it comes to the brightness test, we achieved 431 lux units, which is good, but it's definitely no record breaker. In reality, it feels much higher than that. With this result, we are able to beat phones like the Nokia 8.35G, the OnePlus Nord, and even the Galaxy S20 Ultra, believe it or not. We scored below the predecessor, Galaxy A71, which had 513 lux, also below the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G and the Realme 7 Pro. We have some settings for the screen here which have to do as usual with the colors and may be pretty important. We got motion smoothness for your refresh rate, either 90 or 60 Hz. There's also the screen mode, which can be set to vivid or natural. We have the color balance slider and RGB slider, so you can properly set up the colors you desire. Now, aside from that, it's a pretty solid panel, and we move forward towards the inside of the phone where we find a familiar processor. It's actually not the one mentioned here. Let's opt for another app. This one is actually the Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G, 8nm and octa-core, also spotted on the Galaxy A52 4G, the Realme 8 Pro and the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Together with this processor, we also have 6 gigs of RAM, LPDDR4X and 128 GB of storage plus microSD. There is no lag on the phone, so no matter what you do, even if you do regular day actions or play games, you'll definitely be happy with the fluidity of the OS and all the apps. You can play PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile with zero problems. When it comes to the benchmarks, we did those. We have quite the list here, starting off with Antutu 8. Here we are, just above the Redmi Note 90 and the Redmi Note 9 Pro, which it shares the CPU from. We're also beating the Moto G9 Plus, but we stayed below the Moto G5G, Realme 7 Pro and Huawei P40 Lite. Now, this has been Antutu. Let's have a glance at Geekbench 5 Multicore. And here we are, just above the Moto G50, also beating the Redmi Note 8 Pro, which was a landmark for mid-range gaming phones, and also the Realme 8 Pro. At the same time, we scored below the Galaxy A71, the direct predecessor, and the OnePlus Nord. The GPU tests involve 3D Mark, and this is the 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1 subtest. As you can see, we are above the Realme 6 and the Redmi Note 9 Pro, but at the same time below the Galaxy A52 5G, the Poco X3 NFC, and the Moto G 5G from Motorola. Results are quite okay, but the phone may feel dated in about, let's say, 8 months. Now the tests are here, and we also have temperature tests, 33.1 degrees Celsius in benchmarks, and also in games 38.3 degrees Celsius. So there's no overheating. The phone will not overheat during its more strenuous activities. When it comes to the battery, this phone is not large and thick for no reason. It has a pretty generous battery, 5000 mAh with 25 watt charging. Now let's see how the battery did in our series of tests. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the video playback test, where we achieved a very solid 19 hours and 16 minutes. This is longer than any normal person could binge on a weekend on Netflix. It surpasses the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, the predecessor Galaxy A71, and the Motorola Edge and OnePlus Nord, for example. It's below the Realme 7 Pro and the Galaxy A32 5G, just so you know. When it comes to continuous usage, we're also doing very fine, 15 hours and 22 minutes, just shy of top 20, and we've tested about 500 phones. We're surpassing Realme 8 5G and the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 4G. But we're below the Realme 8 and the Moto G8 Power, plus the Galaxy A31. Still, it remains a pretty impressive performance. The charging is a bit on the long side, 1 hour and 22 minutes, but at least after 30 minutes you should be good to go with a 50% charge, which should last you a working day, I would predict. There are also power saving features which you can use. And now we move further. We have stereo speakers here. We have the audio jack. This is one of the speakers, and the other one is the earpiece in a slit above the punch hole. We have Dolby Atmos and an equalizer and a UHQ upscaler, but I'm not here for that. I'm here to show you what the music sounds like. Okay, so a bunch of conclusions. The volume is satisfying, but not the loudest I've heard recently. There's a bit of bass, so that's not lacking, especially the bottom speaker has the bass covered. The high notes and the voices were satisfying. The device doesn't vibrate too much, so there's that. And there's stereophony, but there's not a feeling of surround for the sound around you, like it happens with flagships usually. There's also no distortion, so that's another good piece of news. And let's see how we did in the volume test. This is the test with the acoustic sample, where we achieved 85.8 decibels at the bottom and 81.5 decibels at the top. It's clearly the bottom speaker is more powerful than the top one. And with this value here, we surpassed the Galaxy S20 Fan Edition 5G and the Realme 8 5G. But we stayed below the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G and the Realme 8 Pro. When it comes to the games, the result is a bit underwhelming, 96.4 decibels. We usually prefer 100 plus decibels. It beats stuff like the Redmi Note 8T and also surpasses the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G, but it stays below the predecessor Galaxy A71, below the Moto G50 from Motorola and the Poco X3 NFC. When it comes to the cameras, the package is pretty solid, starting off with a 32 megapixel front camera, which is able to shoot 4K videos. At the backside, there's a quad camera in this beautiful module, with a main 64 megapixel sensor with optical image stabilization, accompanied by an 8 megapixel telephoto camera capable of, guess what, 3x optical zoom. Then there is the 12 megapixel ultra wide camera and 5 megapixel macro camera. LED flash, 4K video capture, there's AI technology, there's a night mode, there's a pro video mode, AR doodle, food mode, portrait, and super slow-mo. And now we're off to the gallery because we have quite a few photos to show you. So here we are with the gallery of photos we've taken with this handset, and mind you, it was a pretty cloudy and dark day when we took those shots. In spite of that, the colors are pretty well calibrated. I'm talking especially about the green of the vegetation, which traditionally is overexposed on some phones. The good piece of news is that the ultra-wide camera also doesn't deform the colors and also is not very soft in details. The close-ups are excellent here, even though the macros weren't exactly mind-blowing. They're good, but I feel that it's not a huge jump from the last year model. And as you can see, if the area around you is quite dark, the ultra-wide camera will bear the worst of it, meaning it will take darker shots than the main camera, only in darker situations. Once again, excellent close-ups, as you can see here, and we also have roses, not just buds like this one. I also took a few selfies, which at first sight don't feel exactly impressive, but the later part of the gallery would be more impressive as far as the selfies are concerned. I'm talking about details, colors, and clarity. We also brought in more colors here, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with the calibration here and the details. I'm talking about the reds, the blues, and the greens. They're all spot on, nothing extra and nothing lower. And also the ultra-wide camera has the same attributes, even though the image is a bit darker and a bit softer on the details if you really zoom in. Okay, and check this out. So this is a regular shot. This is the first level of zoom, which is still satisfying at 3x. It's above the current mid-range phones, but if you go past 5x, there will definitely be some noise present. Now, these are close-ups, close-up number 1 and close-up number 2, and these are actually macros, which on this small screen look fine, but on a larger screen you'll see that the low resolution of the camera shows. The second batch of selfies is, I would say, satisfying, even though here and there there's been some focus miss. Details are spot on, and the texture of the hair and the clothes are also quite fine. The face has a pretty nicely rendered expression, and the bokeh cut is totally impressive. I would even go as far as to say that the bokeh cut is flagship level. Too bad we don't also have the studio effects from the Galaxy S21 series. Some nice bokehs for the main camera as well, without any flaw here when highlighting the subject. One of the best photos I've taken with this phone is this one here. This rosebud actually caught some water in its middle, and we took a macro of it, and it looks pretty impressive, even though the colors are a bit too intense for my taste. Several more shots of roses. I would say they're quite fine in texture, detail, and colors, so there's no problem here whatsoever. As you can see, the gallery continues on this pretty dark and cloudy day, and the camera handled itself quite well. If I were to object to something, it would be the darker ultra-wide shots, and the macro camera, which hasn't evolved in a huge manner from last year, is probably the same cam. Now, the zoom is definitely impressive compared to basically all $400 mid-ranger phones out there. These have been the daytime shots. Let's go to the low light ones, where I am impressed yet again. I actually cannot tell if these shots have the night mode activated or not. And finally, we have a phone, a mid-range phone, which uses an ultra-wide camera which doesn't distort or mess up the photos. So the ultra-wide camera is the real star here. Obviously, there will be some deformation for the lights, but not major, not in such a way that it will spoil your shots. I've seen ultra-wide cameras spoiling shots even on flagships, but this one doesn't do as bad as I would have expected. Excellent quantity of light, focus, and even the zoom. Check this out. This is a column, a monument, and this is the zoom on that column with solid details. I'm pretty impressed, I'll admit it, pretty impressed. There are some instances where the quantity of light is not satisfying, but that's where the night mode jumps in. So color me impressed overall, and there's even an upgrade from the last year model, the A71. And now let's go to the video player. We have 14 videos here, and I actually took a series of stabilization tests to see what it's all about. First of all, I'm pretty impressed by the selfie video, which is, by the way, shot in 4K. This is good enough for vlogging material, so you can start a vlogging career on YouTube if you want to. It's above my expectations, and I would even say I can feel a slight improvement from the A71. And aside from that, this is stabilization test number 1, where we didn't have the steady mode activated. I would say it's quite fine. There's a bit of music in the background. Let's avoid a copyright strike. So good stabilization even without the steady mode on, and with it activated, let's see what we achieved. Here we are. Things get a bit better. I will remind you that we're using optical image stabilization here, and you can actually tell as the camera overcompensates in some instances. So for example, when I was doing the first videos from the gallery, there's that feeling, I will show you in a minute. So if you look closely, especially when panning, it feels like the camera is constantly doing this. That motion as if you're on a boat. That's what I like to say. It's either doing something like this or something like this. Is the struggle to always try and properly focus when panning. That's one effect I felt here and didn't feel on the predecessor from what I remember. Several more videos here, including a very nifty one, a single take one, which actually caught a crazy instance of focus on my face without even seeing the subject properly. Check this out, how fast it was able to focus in a pretty snappy situation without any warning. Okay, so pretty impressed once again. The jump from last year is pretty small though. In video I would say 10%, if that. And this is the low light. This is actually the bigger jump, the low light video capture, which usually comes with zero expectations from a mid-range phone. Well, this one actually delivers in a way which would probably let you post this in social media. Usually on a mid-range phone, what you film during the nighttime is not exactly media friendly, social media friendly. This actually is quite solid. Okay, so that's that. I'll say it again. It's easily, this easily warrants the nickname Galaxy S20 Fan Edition Lite for this phone. And we go further and talk about connectivity. So first things first, we have here at the bottom an USB-C 2.0 port. And we also have an audio jack. And the device provides you with dual nano SIM card slots, Wi-Fi dual band, there's Bluetooth 5.0, there's NFC for your payments, and let's see, as you can see here, NFC for payments. We also have GPS, GLONASS, Beidou, and Galileo. The calls were pretty loud and clear, and we also did a bunch of speed tests, so let's see those. Speed tests for 4G and Wi-Fi. On 4G we got up to 193 megapsecond in downloads, 66.4 megapsecond in upload. On Wi-Fi 291 over 324 megapsecond download and upload respectively. I would say we're doing fine. When it comes to the software, this is Android 11 with One UI 3.1 on top, and the Bixby it's still part of the package, as well as the Edge panels, which you can see here. They include these shortcuts, which may come in handy for some people. We also have this recents area and also the option to apply split screen multitasking and also pop-up view. For security, we have the optical fingerprint scanner in the screen, which I combine with the face unlock for a pretty fast unlocking, even though at times the fingerprint scanner is not as responsive by itself and it's better combined with a face unlock. Now, aside from that, I would say the experience is pretty typical. Everything you saw in the Galaxy S21 review applies here. As you can see, the drop-down section with the quick settings is expanded to occupy the whole screen. We have notification history now. We have those bubbles for your messenger applications. What else? We don't have a DeX mode, but we have link to Windows, if I'm not mistaken here. So we also have quick share, smart view, nearby share, there's eye comfort shield, do not disturb, and more. This is linked to Windows as I promised. We have digital well-being, which now gets a widget which you can put on a lock screen. We also have always on display features. We have Android Auto features, motions and gestures, one-handed mode, and you can replace these buttons at the bottom with swipes. I definitely forgot something, so be sure to read our full text review. Now, aside from that, the pre-installed apps are pretty straightforward. This is the Samsung package with SmartThings, Health, Bixby, Wearable, even radio is here. And this is the Google package. This is the Microsoft package, Office, OneDrive, and Outlook. And finally, we got Spotify, we got Galaxy Store, Samsung Members, Facebook, Netflix, and a note-taking app called Samsung Notes. Aside from these, we also have the game launcher where you have your games and customizations for them. And that's that. Now, let's go to the verdict. Okay, so verdict time. As usual, this involves a list of pros and cons. On the pro side, definitely the cute looking backside of the phone and the solid build, and of course the color is a plus here. There's a great looking screen as well. I'm talking about the brightness and its colors, and its even its refresh rate is quite nice. Excellent battery life, One UI 3.1, as I said, for the Galaxy S21, can sell the phone by itself. There's no lag. We got IP67 certification, micro SD, stereo speakers, a solid 3x optical zoom, 4K videos, have a lot of detail and nice colors, good focus and good colors in the photos as well. Solid selfies and also solid selfie videos, and the night mode pics and videos actually impressed me more than I expected. Those were the pros. Now on the cons side, I feel that need to mention that this is still a rather massive phone, thick and bulky. We don't have portrait studio options for the selfies. We don't have a DeX mode. The charge is a bit on the long side, and I would say that there's a bit of lag after booting up. We don't have an HDR screen, and the ultra-wide shots feel a bit darker than the regular ones. There's also that boat effect I kept mentioning earlier. When you shoot video and pan, there is that sensation you're on a boat. And also, I would say that the macros were a bit so-so, not a huge jump from last year. That's pretty much it. I would even factor in the CPU choice, which in about 8 months would probably feel dated. Now, in the end, I would want to remind everyone what this phone is bought for. First of all, battery. And second of all, you can shoot 4K video with the front camera and become a vlogger. So it will be a device to create content for people with a lesser budget than a flagship. So you're going to buy it to charge it once every 2 days, record selfie videos in 4K, consume videos on the Super AMOLED screen, maybe also do some gaming, and at the same time take some solid pictures and videos even after dark. The only thing and the only compromise you have to accept is that the CPU may be getting dated in about 8 months or 12 months. I would also want to remind you that Samsung is offering 3 years of Android updates and 4 years of security updates. That's a pretty big plus. This has been it from gsn.com. Hope you enjoyed this review of the Samsung Galaxy A72 4G. Bye bye.